Hello and welcome to another episode of Frames Team, and today I'm going to talk about the Fujifilm 150 to 600 telephoto lens, and I shot it with the Fuji XT5. Let's talk about the experience.
Now let's see what we have here. Oh, that little thing jumping around. Oh, it's so difficult to spot him. Where did he go? Where is he? Oh my god, it's such a trouble. Oh, there you go. Jumping on. Are you a bird or a frog? God, but jumping again. What a little devil. Oh, he just went past like a bullet. Let me look for something. There you are. Oh, nice gentleman there, sitting quiet and cozy. Look how tiny these birds are, and this 900mm equivalent lens, I can really go very close to them and shoot them. Look how confident he is, just sitting there enjoying the falling sun, just surveying the area, looking around. He looks like he's wearing sunglasses. Amazing looking bird. What a beautiful little thing. Now, since you're sitting there so quiet and cozy, I crept up to him from a different angle and I went quite close to him. This little guy is so confident. He didn't move, he didn't budge, he just kept looking at me. Took the challenge head on. So I thought I'll just record some video, and there is a video. You can see the stabilization of the lens. Nice, not the best in the world, but quite nice at 900mm. That's actually quite good, isn't it?
Now I am using the XT5. You could be using the XH2S or the XH2. I'm sure the XH2S autofocus is much better than the XT5, especially when it comes to wildlife shooting, action shooting. So I have to, when I talk about it, I have to maintain, I have to separate the lens from the camera, and that's one thing that I'm going to maintain. First of all, this lens is not too heavy. This is about 1.6 kg or so, almost there. It's got a nice tripod collar. The lens is not too heavy. This goes up to, on a crop sensor camera, this goes up to 900mm, which is just ideal for birding according to me. So that is one thing that I absolutely enjoyed while shooting with this lens. On the flip side, this is not a very bright lens. This is a 5.6 to f8 lens, which means that it's great for when you have decent light. I mean, otherwise you'll have to push the ISO up to ISO, 3200 or even 4000 or even beyond that. I wouldn't go beyond ISO 800 or ISO 1600 on the Fuji XT5 especially. Not because I don't like the structure and the nature of the grain. I think that's full of character on any Fuji camera. But when it comes to birding and wildlife, I don't want so much grain. Yes, I mean, eventually if I have to pull the exposure value up on Lightroom, I'm going to start seeing some grain. But in ideal case scenario, I would shoot at a time and in a situation where there is adequate light, and I'm going to manage my shooting accordingly.
The subject detect ability of the Fuji bodies can improve. I know for a fact that the XH2S with a stacked sensor inside that body performs better than the 40 megapixel XT5 and the XH2. So I think it's a very camera dependent discussion. But if I try to isolate the camera and the lens, I think for the capability of the Fuji XT5, I found this lens to perform exceedingly well. It actually beat my expectation. I did not think that I can actually do so well on a Fuji system, and I was surprised that XT5 coupled with the 100 to 600 is this mature. Honestly, if the XT5 gets one more firmware update, and I'm going to try and do another test with the XH2S, I think this is a very ready to go setup right now. I love the autofocus, honestly, and I'm isolating again the performance of the lens compared to the performance of the body. I'm isolating that. I think the performance on autofocus is excellent. The low light performance is mostly related to files, unless you're talking about, again, autofocus. And I said, even when it was low light, it was like very cloudy, in the evening, almost evening, I didn't find any problem that relates to the lens. I thought the autofocus, even in low light, was quite accurate, quite consistent. What's important is that no matter what the level of performance is in terms of autofocus, if it is consistent, you know how to deal with with your equipment. If it at times does very well, at times doesn't do well, it is in those situations when I feel that, you don't know how to deal with your camera or your equipment, because it doesn't perform equally well or equally bad in all situations. So you're caught off guard. I think it is consistent. I have to say, when it comes to backlit, heavily backlit situations, because I shot directly against the sun, I wanted to focus on a few leaves and shoot directly against the sun. It did hunt for a bit. I thought that it didn't do as well, but that's a testing situations. In most other situations, the lens did excellent.
About the handling of the lens, I said this is a very lightweight and manageable lens, and the zoom throw is not too much. So you can go from 150 to 600 mil very quickly. One mistake I have made while shooting with this lens is that I've attached my peak design strap with the camera. If you see here, there is actually on the side of the lenses, on the lens, there is actually a place to attach your strap, and I think you should use that. That means that you're keeping the mount safe, and you're not putting pressure on the mount via the camera. It is not ideal to hang the camera like this. It is actually better to carry the lens with the camera attached to it. Now, stabilization of this lens is all right. It is not the best that I have used for a long telephoto lens like this. My reference point is 806.3 from Nikon, but this is very usable, especially if you're standing and shooting. You can use the IBIS boost on your XT5 or on any Fuji body that you're using. The normal IS, internal stabilization IBIS, is good enough. It is just not maybe the best that I have ever used. Now, one more thing that is very interesting is that I think this lens is very flexible. It really liberates you from a lot of the burden of carrying a lot of weight, because the lens and the camera combination is quite quite manageable and light, especially coupled with the XT5. Now, one big benefit of this being a wide zoom, 150 to 600 or almost 200 something to 900, is that you can use the wide part of the lens to spot the bird and then zoom in very close. You understand the difference, especially when you are shooting with a prime like a 400 mil prime or a 600 or 800 mil prime, because what happens is, if you're already very zoomed in, it's kind of difficult to spot the bird. But if you're able to zoom out, find the location of the bird through the viewfinder, and then zoom in onto the exact point where the bird is, it's just far more usable. You save the time, you don't lose the right moments. So, I mean, when it comes to, I think birding especially, I think zooms are really helpful that way. Zooms always don't give you the best image quality, but this usability that you have on a zoom like this is amazing. Of course, I'm using this lens on a very trying sensor. It's a 40 megapixel XT5 sensor. So you will see the kind of resolution this camera have, the kind of tone, detail, and other stuff that this camera can produce along coupled with this lens. So let's see.
So let's talk about resolution. Of course, I've been shooting on the XT5, which is a high resolution camera by any standards. 40 megapixel is enough resolution for most people in most situations, which means that if you want to really crop in, you're going to easily get anywhere between 12 to 20 megapixel file easily, even after quite a heavy amount of crop. So I did that, and in my experience, this lens has the ability to resolve for a 40 megapixel crop sensor camera. So when I zoomed in, when you have critical focus, when you zoom in, you will see that you have tremendous amount of croppability. Yes, capability. And so I don't think when it comes to resolution and detail on this lens, there is any issue. And I honestly, I have mostly shot it between 400 and 600 millimeters. I really haven't used it much at 150 millimeters. You don't buy this kind of lens to shoot at 150 millimeters. You, I think, zoom out wide to 150 in my experience, just to be able to spot where the animate of the bird is, and then you zoom in and try and get a composition right. So I think there is tremendous amount of resolution coming with this camera. If it can perform on a Fuji XT5, it can perform on any of your Fuji cameras. Now let's talk about chromatic aberration or any unnaturalness when it comes to color. I didn't find any. Honestly, it's a very high quality lens, especially for the price. I'm going to mention the price somewhere in the screen. For the price of this lens, it is astounding the kind of reach it gives you, and the fact that it gives you such clean files, high resolution files, resolving all the detail, and no noticeable chromatic aberration, nothing that disturbs you. It is also at this point very important to talk about the kind of bokeh you get. Honestly, that was a delight. I mean, I initially thought on a crop sensor camera f8 at 600mm, what you essentially get is 900mm of effective reach because it's being mounted on a crop sensor camera. But along with that, you also get, you're shooting at f8, which is almost f8 full frame worth of bokeh, right? You just multiply it by 1.5, and that's the kind of bokeh you will get. So f12 and 900mm, that's the kind of look and effect you'll get with this lens. However, let me tell you, you are going to get the light that's equivalent to f8. That's not going to change to f12. So while you get bokeh worth of f12, you do get light worth of f8, which is, I think, very, very important because you get the best shots in wildlife shooting when you have the light coming at the subject at an angle, meaning it's falling suns or emerging sun, just rising sun or falling sun. The light is coming at an angle. It's a beautiful yellow orange light, but the light is not very powerful. So f8 is, I think, I wouldn't go beyond f8, honestly. And even at f8, I'm shooting anywhere between 2000 to 4000 ISOs, depending on my shutter speed. And so therefore, I think even at that aperture value, the kind of bokeh I get, and I'm showing you examples right now, I thought if you manage the angles well, and if you're allowing the background to fall far behind the subject, you're going to get very nice and nice smoothened out bokeh. When things are quite close to you, like you see in this image, for example, the leaves and the bushes are just behind the bird, it is still a very nice looking rendition actually. So I think I'm quite satisfied with the kind of bokeh effect I get on this lens. Well, I talked about the reach. Now understand that at that reach, at 600mm of reach, okay, what is very important for you to do when you're shooting fast moving subjects or subjects of any kind, you need to be able to hold a camera steady in your hand, because at that focal length, almost 900mm full frame equivalence, any slight movement in your hand is going to get augmented, magnified, and it's going to show. Especially when you're shooting video, I thought that I didn't do as well shooting video with this as I did with the stills, because I think the still stabilization is quite good. And I told you that actually, I think I did shoot at 1/60th and 1/40th of a second. So the stabilization on the Fuji XT5 is quite good. I'm sure most of the recent Fuji bodies like the XT5, XH2, XH2S, they'll have very good stabilization, especially for stills. When it comes to video, I did feel a little bit of struggle. I won't say it's unusable. The files, you have seen the files, you've seen the stabilization. I have applied no digital stabilization to those files. I think they're quite usable, probably not as powerful as some of the other full frame brands. But then, I'm talking about large mounts. I think Fuji has definitely scope to improve stabilization on this body, on these kind of bodies, but that's not on the lens. I'm sure on the future bodies, we're going to see much improved stabilization. Let's talk a little about low light performance and focus speed. I have a lot to show you when it comes to focus speed, and honestly, it's a mixed bag. I think the ability of the lens to do back and forth quickly from focusing on a subject which is near you to going back, that ability of the lens, this lens is superb. It's very, very good, silent, but the way it can do back and forth, like there's something in front of you, quickly bring focus back to the subject in front of you and then go back and then come back again. It's good, it's solid, a great performance when it comes to focus speed, quietness, all of that. I would say that this lens is an 8.5 out of 10, especially because of the size, the compactness, the build quality, the usability. I mean, look at the features. You've got a lot of buttons there, a lot of controls, a nice handle, not very heavy, a large sort of zoom rubber here. I can very easily navigate through all the surfaces and interfaces on the lens. The hood is so nice. There is an easy way to access the filter. Everything is so well designed, and most people do not think about the Fuji system when it comes to wildlife and birding. And I think this lens with the new Fuji bodies can and definitely will change that. And it is surprising. The ability for it to reach to 900mm, man. That's tremendous. That's where I'm going to leave it today. I'm going to see you soon with another video soon. And subscribe to this channel if you're new here, and if you've come back here for the second or third time, what are you waiting for? Let me know what you want to see more of. What kind of other Fuji content do you want to see me make? Let me know. I want to hear from you, and I respond to most most comments. See you soon.
I lift my voice, I call your name as I toil down in this valley of strife and pain. I've been over backwards, paid it all forwards, don't have a dime to my name, and my debt to you could never be repaid. When the heat wave starts to break and the ice and snow melts away, when the tears we've cried have all run dry and we find the rainbows in, we'll be walking in the sunshine.